We're just going to talk about Medicare conceptually, how it works. I'm going to explain to you the various parts of Medicare. I'm going to answer questions for you, even probably answer some questions you hadn't thought to ask yet. So let's start out with what we call original Medicare. If you were going to bake an apple pie, you'd have to have some apples in your apple pie, right? You don't have apples in your apple pie, you don't have apple pie. You got something else, but you don't have apple pie. You can think of Part A and Part B as the apples in your Medicare pie. You must have Part A and Part B before you have anything else. Part A is hospital insurance, all the stuff that happens in the hospital. Part B is medical insurance, and that's all the stuff that happens outside of the hospital. Part A, if you've been paying FICA taxes for at least 10 years, your Part A premiums are already paid. Now, had you not been paying FICA taxes for at least 10 years, then there is a premium associated with it, and it's quite expensive, $505 a month for Part A hospital insurance. Part B, for most people, comes with a premium of $174.70 a month. Now, there are some exceptions to that. If you are a high income earner, then you're going to pay a surcharge. That's called IRMA. I'm going to introduce you to two ladies that you probably don't want to know, Maggie and Irma. We'll talk about them later. For the sake of this conversation, we're going to say the Part B premium is $174.70 for most people. All the numbers that I'm going to give you today, they go up over time. So we're taking a snapshot of what does 2024 look like, but 2025, 2026, 2027, and so on are all going to look different. So if we talk about a specific number, just keep in mind that it will go up over time. Part B, your medical insurance, that's when you go to the doctor. And for $174.70 a month, the government insurance covers 80% of your doctor bills. Now, that's pretty good insurance in the grand scheme of things. The problem with it, though, is that it only covers 80%, which leaves you responsible for the other 20%. And there's no cap on that. There's no maximum on that. How quickly can you run up $100,000 in medical bills? Very quickly. You need to mitigate that exposure somehow. And you're going to do it in one of two ways. You're either going to go with an Advantage plan, or you're going to go with a Medicare Supplement, also known as Medigap. We're going to call it Medigap today because there's fewer syllables. So a lot of you are turning 65 real soon. And the reason you're here is because your birthday is coming up and you're going to have your initial enrollment period. Now, the initial enrollment period is for 7 months. It's going to be the 3 months before your birthday, and it's going to be the 3 months, your birthday month, and then the 3 months after your birthday. And if you enroll in Medicare before your birthday, it's going to take effect on the first day of your birthday month. Somebody give me a birthday. February. Okay, so her birthday's in February. She's got January, December, November. Anyway, so anytime after November, she can enroll for a start date of February the 1st. And if you enroll after your birthday, then it's going to take effect on the first day of the next month after your birthday. If you enroll in here, you will not incur late enrollment penalties. One of the big reasons that people come to this class is all my friends told me I was going to have late enrollment penalties if I don't get onto Medicare, but I'm still working. That raises another question, and that is, do you need to enroll in Medicare if you're still employed? Maybe. You've got options. Let's address that. There's nothing that says that you have to enroll in Medicare at all. There's no law that says that you have to enroll in Medicare. You can enroll in Medicare if you want to. You can not enroll in Medicare if you don't want to. You can enroll in part of Medicare if you want to, all of Medicare if you want to, but if you don't enroll in Medicare when you should, and then you decide that you're going to later, then you'll have late enrollment penalties. There's another way that you might qualify for, there's a couple of other ways that you might qualify for Medicare besides being 65. One is if you have been on Social Security disability for 2 years. In the 25th month after you've been on Social Security disability, you qualify to get onto Medicare. If you have certain diseases like Lou Gehrig's disease, end-stage renal disease, renal failure, then you can qualify for Medicare also when you're not quite 65. If you still work for a company and you're keeping your company insurance, at some point, you're going to retire, and then you're going to need to go to ssa.gov. There it is, right there, ssa.gov. That's where you enroll in Medicare. And you're going to need to show them some proof, some evidence that you've had creditable coverage during all that time, so you don't get the late enrollment penalty. So how do we do that? It's pretty simple. There's a form called an L564. If you're making notes, you want to write that down, L564. Your HR department will probably be familiar with this already. If for some reason they're not, you can download it online, L564. It's a CMS form. And if you still can't find it, ask me. I'll email it to you. It's a PDF file. And all they're going to do is fill it out and say, You had coverage with this company between this date, and they're going to sign it, and you're going to give it to Social Security, and everybody will be happy. Okay, let's talk about what Part A helps to cover. Helps to cover hospital and skilled nursing. That SNF up here stands for skilled nursing facility. It helps to cover inpatient labs, imaging, and testing. This is stuff happening in the hospital, covers some blood transfusions, and it helps to cover hospice care. So if you're in the hospital, it's going to cover a semi-private room. It's going to cover meals. Nothing says recovery like green jello, right? Even if you just get the zero premium advantage plan over here, they get you a maximum out of pocket. Draws the line somewhere, so this doesn't happen to you. These advantage plans come in various flavors, some of which you're familiar with. Everybody knows what an HMO is, right? Health Maintenance Organization. Managed care. The HMO plans have a fairly low maximum out of pocket, typically between $3,500 and $4,500 for the year. That's pretty good, as long as you're willing to play by their rules, okay? A PPO gives you more flexibility. Now, a PPO has a network, and you're going to go to the doctors in their network. That's where you're going to get the best deals, but you do have the flexibility of going outside the network. There's a financial trade-off that people make when they do that, though. And one of those financial trade-offs is that the maximum out of pocket is higher on a PPO plan. And we typically see these in the $7,000 to $12,000 range. Those aren't the official numbers, and it depends upon the plan, but that's about where they come in on PPO plans. And if you go outside of the network, on a PPO plan, which you have the flexibility to do, it's going to get very expensive for you. You're probably going to have co-insurance of 40 to 50% of the cost of the services that you're receiving.